Welcome back, my friends, to the show which never ends, with an anthropomorphic hen. Come inside, come inside. Come join me and Viv, talk about creatures that live in the darkness of your id. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, believe me folks, it's great. Streaming on the last Wednesday at 8. Come inside and here as well, you know. We'll take you places you want to go. Come and see the show. The Comedy Rhino. Come and see the show. It's great, you know. They're behind that box. There's been criminal in a box. There's Canadian Dave Scott. Come inside, come inside. Goodness, it's his nibs. The one and only Ian Squibbs. Exposing late months of fibs. Come inside, come inside. Come inside. The show's about to start. An insane mix of science, class and art. Come and see the show. It's good, you know. Come and see the show. The last Wednesday show. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all? You will probably have noticed that I had the last Wednesday of the month music just now at the beginning, even though it's not the last Wednesday of the month. It is because that's got me and V and Ian in it, whereas the normal spooky show music only has Vivien and Dan in it. And because neither Vivien or Dan are here with us, because this week we have me, Ian, V. McQuillan, and my old friend Matthew Williams, I thought it's better to put the intro music for the wrong show than put the intro music for the right show when none of the people in the intro are actually there. And that's a long, complicated and convoluted explanation. But basically, Vivien is on holiday for October.
Wow.
And so Spooky V is being replaced by Spooky. No, the other way around, isn't it? Spooky Viv is being replaced by Spooky V. And V and I, sometimes, hopefully, assisted by Ian and maybe even Dave, is going to come and talk to our other guests this month. But as I said, this month, this week, whatever it is, my old friend Matthew Williams I've known for about 10 years less than I've known V, which is a long time. Matthew, how lovely to have you here, mate. Welcome aboard this silly ship.
Welcome.
Thank you, John. Hello, Ian. Hello, V.
Hi.
And hello, everybody who's watching.
Hello, Matthew.
Well, I've just had a message from Dave. He's going to be a troll. That figures, Dave. When are you going to do something different?
Yeah.
Now,
you don't mind my vape, do you?
Do I mind your vape? My dear boy, I don't mind if you're chugging down a bottle of morphine. It's up to you.
Yeah, there's water with lemon juice, actually, but yeah.
I'll be pissed by the end of the show anyway. It's not uncommon.
Get the bong out.
Well, this, I have got the real hard stuff. This is vegan Ribena.
Oh, nice.
On the pinotage.
Yeah, right.
I have a hobgoblin.
Yeah, we're all at it.
I would have a drink, but I'll be back and forth the toilet every 15 minutes because I've got kidney stones.
That's
and it triggers them.
Probably because you don't drink enough fluids.
I have to now. I've been ordered by doctor. I have to drink a lot every day, so I literally gulp down pints of water.
Are you on the waiting list for the ultrasound?
I've already had 5 operations to lase one side of the kidney stones, but they've got to go in and do the other side now. So I'm waiting for my position, and I'll probably be in for another 3 operations.
Cool.
All good fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see we've got 12 people so far, 14 people watching so far.
Welcome, folks.
What we can't tell you is actually how many people in total are watching. So I think that's just the people from Facebook, plus there's a load more people watching it on what's it called, YouTube, and there's people watching it on that purple thing, and I can't remember what it's called. Instagram. And I don't understand Instagram. So
You'll
whenever
probably get a few coming over from my channel as well, hopefully. So you'll see a few names that you haven't seen before.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, say hello, everybody. And
Hello.
not you two. I meant V. I was
Hello.
telling the people in the audience say hello to us.
Okay.
Not you say hello to them.
Yeah.
But you can if you want. I don't mind.
Hello.
Ian, despite hello, William.
Hello there.
We got William has just said hello. Jason has said hello.
Can I just say, if anyone says anything directly to me, I can't see any of the chat because I can only see the what's this duck thing, StreamYard. That's the only interface I've got here, and I'm not seeing any chat on that. So if somebody says something to me and I don't respond, it's because I haven't seen it. Okay.
Can you see underneath your chin, William Southey says, "Hey." Can you see that?
Oh yes, I can just about see that. Yeah.
Okay, and Jason says, "Hi guys."
Hi Jason.
Okay, it wasn't. It was Ian's idea to have Matthew on today.
So it was a good idea.
It was a very good idea. We would have had Matthew on eventually anyway, because I've known him for a long time. But Ian, you start off. What have you got to say to this young reprobate from Wales?
Well, I've been following your work for a few years, Matt. I sort of came into I used to enjoy watching the urban exploring type videos, and that's when I came across your Secret Vault channel, which is good. And also then I looked at your other work, and you also done some UFO stuff and crop circle stuff, which is where you originated, wasn't it? That kind of vibe. So give us a bit of your background, what you were doing, and how you actually got into the sort of UFO unexplained type field.
Well, actually, that's a good thing to start with, the unexplained. That's the book, the sort of weekly thing that I used to get from Orbis Publishing, and that was my first introduction to kind of the paranormal, really, apart from maybe watching The Strange World of Arthur C. Clarke on TV. I think that was about the only TV program that dealt with paranormal stuff back then. But I was a bit of a sort of skeptic back when I was younger, and didn't really know what to believe of all this stuff. I used to just read it as kind of like curiosity and Forteana and think like, I wonder. And then when I was a bit older, sort of about 19 years of age, I think it was, I was driving a Mini from the valley that we lived in South Wales, in the Rhondda Valley, over to the I think it's Clydach Vale, over the next valley. And as I rounded the corner of the mountain, it gave me a view down into the next valley. On the side of the mountain was this triangular shaped object which was shimmering at its edges. It was orange yellow in color. And I was still driving and looking at this thing, looking back at the road, and trying to work out whether it was the mountain on fire, because that was something you actually see quite a lot of. But it was weird, because it seemed to be sort of almost as if it was sort of coming at me, but it was on the side of the mountain, and I was kind of trying to focus my eyes on it to kind of see what this thing was. And I kept driving until I lost sight of it behind some trees, and then I was, curious enough to kind of know what that was. And I thought, well, if I drive down any further, I'm probably not going to see it, because it's going to be up there and the trees will block it. And so I stopped the car, reversed back up, cleared the tree line, and there was nothing there at all. So that was like, oh, okay. And I went off and did the work I was going to do in a video studio that night. Drove back home, can't even remember looking in that direction to see what was there. Had completely forgotten about it. And then it was like 5 days later, it was I was doing something quite normal, just sort of working, in the house, doing computer stuff, and it was like somebody chucked a bucket of water in my face. And it was a sudden realization, hang on a minute, a week ago, driving over the mountain, I saw that strange thing. And then I thought, well, why am I thinking about it now? 5 days later, it felt like a sort of an amnesia had come across me, and I couldn't understand why I would remember it 5 days later. And I went back to the area. I climbed up that mountain, had a look. There was actually what's known as a cairn mound, which is a set of stones that have been placed on a burial site or a place of special interest.
Yeah.
And that was there. Yeah. That got me interested in the subject a lot more than I had been. And I started reading books on UFOs quite heavily then.
How long did the sight in Lower, when you saw the triangle, then how long was that actually in view, would you say, for you?
10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then you just sort of forgot about it completely type thing in between until you had the bucket of water experience? Or...
Yes, yeah, completely forgot about it, didn't think about it. And then I couldn't understand how I would literally forget that I'd seen something that was that odd. And I could remember then quite clearly, because it's one of my my more vivid memories, that you have one of these experiences and it stays with you for the rest of your life. I mean, knowing now it's one of those very vivid experiences that I can see it. It's that clear to me that this thing that I saw, it's and I haven't got the best of memories for faces, people, places, and facts. But those key experiences, they don't fade in your memory, I tend to find. So yeah,
there's an orange glowing triangle you saw.
Yes, and it was behind the tree line, so that it was actually behind the tree line, and there was a steep incline, almost like a cliff, and it was in front of that, behind the tree line, and against the side of the mountain, and that's and I was trying to work out, well, there's no trees there per se for it to catch fire, maybe a bit of grass, but it's it's.
And it
obviously
depends what time of year it is
fire.
anyway, because they only catch fire in the summer, really, don't they? So
yeah.
If it was in winter, what time of year was it then? Did you see?
Now that you'll have to. No, there's where I fall down, because I can't remember, but I have written about it. So if I looked it back up, I would be able to tell. I can't remember actually which time of year it was.
And how big was it, would you say? Or again, is that kind of
about 150 foot high, something like that, maybe?
Really? A fair size?
Oh, yeah. 150, 200 foot, maybe. And I've compared it against the mountain to kind of put it back together. I've even done computer animated video, which actually puts it in place on the mountain as I remember seeing it. So.
And you've no idea what this could have been, though? Any theories of your own, perhaps, at this stage?
No idea whatsoever whether or not it was some sort of craft, or I was seeing some sort of ball lightning effect, or whether it was maybe a dimensional doorway or something, considering that people report having these sightings above cairn stones and special sacred sites. So maybe I was seeing something that was only there fleetingly. Maybe I was meant to see it. I don't know. It certainly turned me onto the subject of UFOs and the paranormal. Made me think, well, if I've seen something weird like this that I can't explain, then maybe I shouldn't be so skeptical towards people who also say they've had weird experiences. It may be more sympathetic.
Yes.
Well, just butting in for a second. Good evening, Robert. Good evening, Stephanie. Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to have so many of you on board. And we have had a message about you, Matthew.
Oh, good.
Saying, this is from Tracy, saying Matthew is the authority on crop circles. There's only one Matthew Williams.
Oh, that's nice.
I know Tracy.
You and I are going to have to do a song for next time he comes on the show, going, there's only one Matthew Williams.
There's quite a few, actually. I've known some Matthew Williamses myself, actually.
I have as well. And and some John Smiths and Steve Joneses. But Matt, carry on then from when you had the bucket of water experience. Pick it up from there. Let's see what.
So my interest got into ufology. I started reading a lot of books. Timothy Good's Above Top Secret hadn't long been out when this happened to me, and I seem to remember it was in 1991. This experience now, and I think his book had been out not for long. I started getting involved with UFO groups and attending. And also I started looking into other things like spiritualist churches and things like that, and hanging around those sorts of places, but coming unannounced just to sort of check them out. And I had some very interesting experiences where things were relayed that were very, very clear messages that came through. And I think that, it kind of changed. My mind was opening wider, basically, to all sorts of possibilities, and I thought there must be something more going on out there. And is it paranormal, or is it physical? Is it something that's like a nuts and bolts craft, or a saw, or whatever? But it gave me the idea that other people are seeing these things as well, and I should be more sympathetic. So I started investigating for Bufora, and also for my own sort of my own reasons, because I wanted to kind of meet these witnesses, ask them, get to know their story firsthand, looking in their eyes. And I started recording the conversations we had. I would transcribe them, and I started doing a magazine called Truth Seekers Review. And this was about the time I was actually working for Customs and Excise at the time in Cardiff, and they got wind of the fact that I was doing this magazine, and they didn't really like it, and I became the butt of a few jokes. And in the end, they saw fit to put me on suspension for 9 months, saying that I'd hacked their departmental computer system, which was absolute nonsense. It was an excuse just made up to, I wish I had, because I don't think I'm that skilled enough to be able to do something like that. But it was really pathetic, and they just made up this excuse. I've gone into it at length elsewhere, but I mean, basically, they asked me to design a database. I designed it, and I put an icon to start the database on the desktop, and all the officers were using it for record storage, and that was fine. I was given permission to do it, but they came after me because they didn't like me and said that I put the icon to start it on my desktop without permission. And that was a breach of departmental security. So they classed that as hacking, and they said that, that's your, get out. And to be honest, at that point, I kind of thought, if you're going to be like that with me, I'd rather not be around anyway. So me and them parted ways. And this was about the time when I was hanging around in Wiltshire a lot, because I'd been told about the crop circles. And one of the speakers at the Cardiff UFO conference that I attended was Colin Andrews, and he was the sort of like the godfather of crop circle research, and has written books about it, and it's quite well known.
This was 91, around 91, you say?
Around that sort of time period, yeah. And I went. So
it was the summer of 90, wasn't it, where the crop circle boom really took off? I do remember it was. Whilst the World Cup was going on, the 90 World Cup with Gaza, also in the papers, there was the crop circle, the Led Zeppelin crop circle, I remember, was made that summer. And
was it 91? Yeah.
90. It was a year before.
90. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah.
V and I missed it completely, because that summer he and I and my first wife Alison were on tour with Steve Cowley and Cockney Rebel. We spent our whole time being rock and roll animals.
Wasn't that with the Japanese chick? The Japanese chick.
It wasn't me.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a German chick.
Really? We're saying they're like the Fonz with all these chicks.
Well, no, he was just working his way through the Axis powers. I don't know.
These chicks. I see.
Anyway, sorry, that completely
Carry on, Matt,
disrupted
please.
your question.
Sorry about that. This happens
That's
sometimes.
okay. We digress, as they say. Yes, that's okay. Yeah, I started looking into the government's involvement in looking at UFOs, and I got myself to a place called RAF Rudloe Manor, which is in Corsham, Wiltshire, which wasn't far away from where the crop circles were. So it was kind of on the route to get to Alton Barnes, which is where most of the crop circles were appearing. And we went over there, myself and Paul Damon, a friend of mine, and we just went up to the guard house and said, can we speak to somebody, because apparently you investigate UFOs here. And I was still working at Customs and Excise at the time, and they said, "Oh, hang on a second," and went on the phone. And then within 30 seconds of us being there, a Land Rover pulled up. Guys with guns came out and basically pointed them like that at our heads through the side windows of the car, and we were interrogated on why we were really there and what we were doing. And I showed my ID and I said, like, we're not terrorists or anything. We just understand that this is where you're investigating UFOs. And yeah, they weren't happy about it. Eventually they let us go. I get a sneaky feeling that probably got back to my employer, which is part of the reason that they kind of wanted to get rid of me, because I was a bit of a hot potato. Being a journalist and working for the government, they don't like it. So yeah. Anyway, that was how I was sort of came to come down to Wiltshire. I was looking at the crop circles, looking into this place, Rudloe Manor. Nick Redfern's written a lot about Rudloe Manor. If you want to check out my story, is in his book called Saucer Spies, I believe, and talks about the fact that well, actually it's interesting we came on to this point, because I think this gentleman up here may have something to say on this, because I was checked out by Special Branch as a terrorist. They were sending people out to interview with people that knew me, and they were these Special Branch officers who were giving out false names and false business cards. And they were asking, like, what do you know about him? And do you remember Robin Cole from? Do you remember Robin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Robin was one of the people who had a visit from these guys, and Robin tracked them down to be special branch officers, and they actually complimented him on how he'd managed to track them down. So, yeah, ufologists are not always stupid. They can do some real research. Yeah.
Oh, at that time I was being harassed quite a lot by the forces of law and order. Most of it was my own fault. The fact was, I'd made friends with this Irish guy, and this Irish guy, who shall remain nameless because he's still working as a teacher, but he was friends with some less reputable Irish guys. And I used to go down and visit him because he'd let me stay in his house for free when he was at work, so I could use his house as a base when I was doing stuff in London. And every weekend we'd go to stay with these people who would get out at the weekend after having sunk about 15 pints of Guinness. Out would come the Baran, out would come the banjo, and it would be, "Well, I was a lad, the British were bastards," sort of songs. And I had a lovely time. I spent about 6 months hanging out with these people who were allegedly the East London branch of a organisation with 3 letters in its name that now no longer exists, allegedly. And had the word provisional before them. Whether they were or not, I never saw any guns, I never saw any action. All I saw was a bunch of piss Irishmen singing rebel songs. But that was enough. Between that and the fact that I knew Matthew was enough for Special Branch to tap my phone and to send people around to interview me, to try and find out who I was. And more so, they went round to Nick Redfern. And Nick Redfern said, well, as far as I know, he's a perfectly respectable bloke. His father was third in line to the governor of Hong Kong, and his brother's a Church of England vicar. He just likes to drink too much and sing Irish rebel songs at the weekend, which is true. That is my whole
raison d'etre.
it is. It's my whole involvement in terrorism. It's just singing a bit loudly and bawdily about it at weekends in this back garden in London.
But he just terrorised the pub, that's all.
Yes, exactly.
No.
I think that's
with song.
But we had great fun, and those are the days, and I don't particularly care. But it's mildly interesting that they were so interested in the whole scene that was around Fortean research at the end of the 1990s. Do you remember all the shit they gave to Tim Matthews?
Oh yes, yeah. There was a number of people got harassed. I mean, Tim Good himself, when he researched Rudloe Manor, he got they came to his hotel, took him from his hotel to the base and interrogated him for a couple of hours, just because he walked around the edge of the base.
Yeah.
Well, I remember asking my then girlfriend, who nobody knew was my girlfriend because she was still married to somebody else. And she's dead now, God rest her soul. But I remember saying to her, who's Matthew Williams? I had this phone call from this weird Welsh bloke the other morning. And she said, and I'm not even going to attempt to do the Essex girl accent, but she said, he's a fucking fence jumper, he is. Because your reputation, Matthew, had gone around that you kept on jumping over the fence at Rudloe Manor to see what you could find.
And still continue jumping over fences to this day. But yeah, I think my reputation was a little bit exaggerated by the officers of RAF Rudloe Manor. I think they had a dartboard with my face on it, and you know, when there was a cat meowing or a goose farting, it was Matt Williams trying to get into Rudloe Manor. That's what they always used to say. But I used to get the blame for a lot of things that other people were doing. Yeah. I did get in there, though, actually, once. Yeah.
Can you talk about it?
Underground, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't realise that, yes, they had this role as RAF police headquarters, which is why they were investigating UFOs. And that's in the Public Records Office, so it's officially recognised that they did that. But they didn't like to talk about it, even though there was evidence they did. So I went there thinking, well, if I ask the locals what they know about this place, I'm bound to bump into somebody who knows something about, you know, this role. And I didn't get anybody talking about UFOs, but they all said, oh, yeah, but the real secret down there is the underground tunnels. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, well, huge underground tunnels. You can drive a car underground and it goes on for miles and miles. And some people would say, not correctly, that there was a secret rail line tunnel that went all the way from Corsham to London, which isn't true as far as I'm aware. What a monumental feat of engineering that would be. But yeah, the truth of it is, though, that during the war, they actually took over the tunnels for bomb storage and as a relief command for if London was bombed and they needed to move government out of London, then they would come underground to Corsham. And it was the central point for communications and coordination. So it was interesting as well that the RAF police were based there. So it was kind of like a high security place. And underground during the war, there was 5,000 people used to work there. So the rumours were that it was 25 miles of underground tunnels. Now, in and amongst my UFO talk and investigating that side of it, when I was writing about it, I would have people saying, oh, that's a load of nonsense. There's no way there's 25 miles of underground tunnels there. And funnily enough, quite a few years ago, there was a Channel 4 news crew was allowed to go down in some of the tunnels, and they saw the telephone exchange they had underground. and various other areas. But there was an admiral of the fleet, because it was Royal Navy. Royal Navy was storing the weapons in one part of the base. The RAF had a different part of the base, but it was kind of like, joint command in different parts of the base. Anyway, the Royal Navy admiral who took Channel 4 down, when he was in the lift, he said, "Oh yes, there's 25 miles of underground tunnels." I thought, there you go. Thank you very much. So vindicated at last, because much like with the crop circles, I've said many things over the years that people don't take seriously, and eventually these things have come to pass. So, yeah, but that was my investigations into Rudloe Manor. Now, I mean, I've done so much stuff with radio, TV, and talking up and down the country. I've done many talks I think I've done more than one, haven't I, for Weird Weekend with you, John?
Oh, you've done at least, I think that's 3.
There we go. Yeah. And they do say I could talk for England, so...
which is pretty good, considering you're Welsh.
Which is, yes. Well, I live in England now, have done for 30 years, so I suppose I can probably talk for England more than I could talk for Wales. Yeah. So anyway, crop circles, that's where my next port of call became, because whilst I was looking into RF Rudloe Manor, I was working for Customs and Excise. Eventually, they sacked me, and I decided that I wanted to research the crop circle subject so much that I actually went down there and spent nights sky watching for weeks, and then begin months, and then I actually started living down there in my car. And I lived for 9 months one year in my car up on a hill, and people would come many nights of the week, and we'd have campfires, we'd be sky watching, looking for UFOs and things like that, and talking about the crop circles. And it became apparent to me that what I was being told was the truth about crop circles wasn't exactly how it was. I was going out and looking at the crop circles, and people were saying there's no way these could be made by people, and I kind of disagreed with that, and had come to the conclusion that there wasn't really a great amount of scientific research being done into crop circles. It was just a lot of opinions being given out by many people. And I thought, well, if it's being done by people, I'd like to meet those people. Might make a good story for my magazine. It's kind of like, yeah, let's try and actually meet these people. So they weren't very keen. The names I'd been given, they weren't keen to speak to me, because they'd probably had their sort of hands burnt by speaking to other people in the past, and it hadn't gone very well for them. So they were a bit guarded and didn't really want to speak to me. And I thought, well, what's the best way to win their trust? And I thought, well, why not go out and make a couple of crop circles and see what it's all about? Which is what I did, and made some simple circles, some quite messy things. And when I approached these people again, I actually pointed out, well, that one, that one, that one, and that one are mine. And then suddenly their eyes sort of lit up, and they were like, oh, we wondered who that was, because we know all of the circles and who's doing them, but we didn't know who's doing those ones. I'm like, well, that was me.
How did you make the circle? If I could butt in quickly here, Matt. How do you make the circle then? What did you do? And
Well, believe it or not, I did it. A lot of people do it the wrong way. So I mean, I'll tell you how to do it the right way, so you don't make the same mistakes as we did. Because in the beginning, we were I was living out of my car. I didn't have access to buy or get hold of materials. So one night we decided we were going to do it. We went to a bin, basically one of these large removal skips sort of things, and we were rummaging through a bin looking for any like rope or anything we could use, and we found a load of nylon rope, and we pulled a piece off a pallet board, which just happens to be the magic size that you see most crop circles are created with. If you actually look at the lines, the comb marks, they usually tend to be about 1 meter across. So it's that distance that a pallet board is, basically. So we got ourselves working like that with basic boards tied up at the ends with which you can hold, and string, because you have to have somebody to stand in position and hold a string out. And the big mistake we made is we were using nylon, and nylon stretches, and you have to actually keep the tape or string very taut. And of course it'll stretch, so you think it's taut, but it'll be moving in and out, so you think you're doing a perfect circular line by walking around the edge to create the first mark, and in fact it ends up being more like a cookie cutter.
Because this is in the dark as well, you're doing it, is that right?
Yes. But we tended to find that, you know, from sky watches and also making the crop circles, that within about 20 minutes your eyes adjust to the dark. And on many nights you can actually see quite well, and it's quite well known. People say that if it's a moonlit night, it's too bright to make a crop circle because you might get spotted. So, you know, most crop circles are made in the complete dark.
And what was you and an accomplice, or how many people would be involved in making a circle?
Started off with me and one other, and then it grew. Yes, one other person, and it grew to be a group of about 4 or 5 of us on occasions that would go out.
So one would stand in the middle with the nylon in this case, and the other would go around with the plank, flattening. Oh, right, okay. So there we go. That's how they're made.
We were very unsophisticated at the start, and we could even call it Jackson Pollock, you know, because what we were trying to do is we tried to make simple shapes that were actually neat. But then we were also saying, well, but let's make something that's just completely abstract and see what people think of it, see whether they like it or not. And it turned out that they liked the abstract stuff as much as they liked the geometric stuff. So honestly, I think we made a mess with the abstract stuff. We made a mess in the fields, but people were coming along and saying that they'd been healed in some of these formations. So it started to be a bit of a head scratcher, because it's like, well, I know I made that, so how is this person saying they've been healed? You know, and you kind of keep going and you kind of see where this leads. You know, you want to see where it leads to. Having met the well-known circle makers, some of them not so well known, but well known to us, that we were kind of digging around trying to find out who they were. We actually got the techniques given to us that other people use. They said, oh, you know, how are you doing this stuff then, you know? Because some of those circles didn't look brilliant. And I was like, yeah, well, we're using nylon. They're like, oh, no, you don't do that. They said, you've got to use a surveyor's tape measure. Because the surveyor's tape measure on a roll, it's actually woven with fiberglass. So it can't stretch, so you can pull it really tight, and it won't bow then as over a distance. You can pull it quite tight, and that will give you your nice clean shape that you were looking for. So it's just a simple little thing like that, you know. Other tricks like don't walk forwards with your feet like that to make the outer line. You crab sideways, so you step your feet like that through the crop, and you push the crop over to the side of your foot. Don't be walking forwards, because you'll always be getting a bit to the left and a bit to the right and a bit to the left and a bit to the right. So again, you'll be cookie cuttering. So little ideas like that, you know, just on how to kind of get started. And we developed it over many years and got better and better. And there was a kind of competitive spirit amongst the circle makers to kind of who was doing the best stuff and who could come out with something original that would kind of like open everybody's eyes and this sort of stuff. So yes, I carried it on for quite a few years, and it was interesting to me from a research point of view to sort of see what people were experiencing in the circles we were making, and what the crop circle researchers were also prepared to say about those circles, whether or not they were any good, whether or not they believed they could be made by people, or whether they thought they couldn't be made by people. And as I found out, in the majority of them, they would say that they couldn't be made by people, and that these things have magical energies that have been tested, doused, people being healed, and that was just something that we came to accept, that's what people would believe with these crop circles and experience, not just believe but experience. So it changed my mind on what crop circles were about, and I formulated a different mindset into how we were doing this stuff, because I thought, well, if it's giving people positive effects, I mean, I never really heard of anybody being ill or sick in these circles. It was usually positive effects. and some people claiming to see UFOs, balls of light, and having very uplifting experiences, coincidences, things like this, and it seemed to be like a good thing to be doing in a positive frame of mind. So I actually started to formulate, and this is where it gets a bit woo-woo, because I formulated that what we would do is we would experiment to see whether or not we could get more energy and more weirdness into the circle if we actually sort of did like a little oration where we all sort of stand around and then we say something, to these energies that might be out there, or these spirits or whatever it is that's coming along and doing this magic stuff in the circles that we're laying out. But is there something else that's putting energy into it? Because I mean, I haven't got magic boots, and
I
and
bet
I'm
you
not,
Matthew.
don't tell anybody. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
but I mean,
let on anybody in the audience about Matthew and his magic boots.
I haven't got fairy powers. Some people have called me a fairy, but no fairy powers. So yeah, I started doing this stuff and actually asking for positive energy to be put down into the circle, and try to do it in a non-demanding way as well. We would sort of speak to the universe and say, great universal intelligence is out there. Please look down on us tonight, and hopefully you will help us make the circle correctly and make it have positive energy for people in any way that you feel it needs to. We weren't
kind
sort
of being guided then, so you would say, yeah, when you were making them in a way.
Well, we'd call in this type of energy, and sometimes we'd have new people with us, and I would just say, if possible, we've got a new person with us tonight. If you want to kind of give them something that helps them to understand the truth of why we're doing this, that would be great. And a number of times, upon saying that, we'd have like shooting stars would go over, and there was a few things where people got kind of weird, spooky experiences where they were seeing balls of light on the edge of the field that were kind of moving around. And yeah, they told us about it afterwards. They didn't tell us at the time, but they said, yeah, it was quite freaky. And I was like, well, that's good then, like you're part of the club, like, you're getting to see all this stuff now. It's really good. So, yeah, basically,
these balls of light?
I did on occasion, yes. And we started to get into the sort of headspace of, well, this is good. We're actually being communicated with here. They're talking back to us by doing these little things. And yeah, there were a few occasions where strange things happened, but mostly I was allowing the interpretation of others and their experiences to tell me that what we were doing was right. That was mostly what it was about. But so I thought, well, this is required. People need to be doing this. A bit like Rob Irving says something similar, that somebody needs to do this. It actually is a good thing, and it made me think a little bit about that particular area of the countryside as well, where you've got Stonehenge and Avebury and various other monuments, which were obviously attracting people in the past to come there to experience something, maybe of a folk nature. It might have been, yes, fertility rites and ceremonies, and possibly to get closer to God or have a weird experience, So I just think that what we were doing was carrying on a very ancient tradition of bringing people to this area to celebrate something, and the magic of the circles and the weirdness of the countryside and the special area that we were living in, that very special area around Alton Barnes and down to Avebury and across to Stonehenge and all the stuff that goes around that area. And I felt that we were kind of adding to it.
I was at the Barge, as you know, a few weeks ago for the Strange Days Festival.
Yes.
And it is a magical area. It has such a magical, productive
vibe.
It's difficult to describe.
We call it the Wiltshire bubble.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a really good description.
I
By the
think
way, Stephanie wants to know, first of all, can she borrow your magic boots?
You
And
could
second
borrow
of all, that she heard farmers who were making the crop circles with their tractors. Is
my
that
magic sandals.
Yeah, you can't actually make them with a tractor.
No,
I've tried.
It's not easy. It's not easy. No.
She also said that one of us had a lovely face, but I'm not sure who she was talking about.
And Matt, weren't you talking to Baldrick from Blackadder in the barge? Is that right?
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
Tony Robinson came down. He was doing his program called Walking Through Britain, and he wanted to do something on the area, and then it came to being Avebury, the White Horses, Stonehenge, and of course you can't come to Wiltshire without talking about crop circles. So they wanted to speak to somebody about crop circles. It ended up being me. So yeah,
because that's interesting. Because also you had Brian Blessed was in the same pub, and he was also in Blackadder, wasn't he? So
yes, yeah.
earlier, yeah.
Yes, it's a shame I missed your talk, actually, John. I was, I wanted to go and see it, but then somebody told me there's a music festival near Birmingham. Went to do that, and somebody said, "Oh, there's things going on in the barge." I'm like, "Oh, sugar!" I would have liked to have turned up.
Next year,
my talk's available on CSZ TV, so you can go and see it if you want.
Right.
It's what I didn't, for once when I put it up on YouTube, I didn't monetize it because I said fuck so many times. And I made several drug jokes and basically behaved badly. And I thought, well, that's not something that I want to risk the algorithm penalizing me for. So I thought it was probably better not to. Young guy with black shirt on has a lovely face. I think that's probably you, Matthew.
With the black shirt on. He said he had an ugly face.
No, lovely face.
Oh, right. She said it's
no,
ugly.
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 So, Matt,
well, thank you.
How many crop circles would you say? Would you say how many crop circles would you say you've made over the years, and for what period?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah. I mean, I actually did a talk for John, and it's available on the internet. It's actually on my channel. It's probably on their channel as well, where I said, well, I'm out known as a circle maker now because there was the prosecution, which we'll come on to in a minute. And I thought, well, I would rather be honest about the circles I've made, which were our designs, which is what I could talk about. However, I have been out and helped a lot of other people with their designs, which I couldn't show because they weren't my designs. It wasn't my place to say. So I've been there on a lot of some of the big designs and quite impressive stuff that's been done as a group effort between a lot of circle making teams coming together to kind of, do stuff. But I can't name those ones. But all the ones that I'd done, which were specifically off my back, I talked about in that CFZ Weird Weekend down in Wolf Hardisworthy, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. One of the Wolf Hardisworthys, because I came to the wrong place once, because there's two Wolf Hardisworthys. Can you believe it, folks? It's two Wolf Hardisworthys.
I'm parked up by the church, man, and there's all these strange birds everywhere. I was thinking, what the hell is he talking about? And then I realised, because Wolfhardisworthy actually in Old Saxon means Wolfhard's homestead. And Wolfhard was the Saxon abbot of Crediton. And the bishop of Crediton gave him two homesteads, one just outside Crediton and one up in North Devon, which is where I live. And he, you're all lovely young men. That's very sweet of you, darling. Thank you, Stephanie. Except nobody could actually call me young anymore. I'm a grandfather. But anyway, Wolfhard had two homesteads, and I live in the more western, northwesterny one. And Matthew, dear boy, had gone completely to the wrong place. I did give
Yeah.
you the postcode as well.
I can't remember if it was back in the days of GPS and mobile phones having screens on them. I think it was maybe a map, but I can't remember now.
You did have a sat nav, but it was a very early one. I don't think you put the postcode in, you just put in the name of the village.
Just put the name of the village in, yeah.
Well,
Woke some people up and they said, what are you doing? You're lost. I said, well, I'm looking for Wolfhardisworthy village hall, you know, that, and they said, we haven't got a village hall. I said, really? Wolfhardisworthy, yeah. They said, yeah, but there's two Wolfhardisworthys. And I was like, oh God. I said, well, sorry to wake you up, you know, but it was like, yeah. So, yeah, the crop circle arrest was an interesting thing I can go into.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking many years into making crop circles.
What year was this? Would you say?
2000.
2000. So this
I
is
believe it's easy date to remember.
So you'd had many years of making crop circles and
yeah. From 1991 to sort of on until 2000, I wasn't known as a circle maker. I was still doing stuff as a UFO researcher, and nobody knew that I was doing this stuff. It was all kept hush hush. However, I did take some people into confidence because I wanted some crop circle researchers to come out with us and actually see some of the weird stuff that we were experiencing. So I had actually tried to approach a few people, take them out, and you know, I was experiencing resistance from a lot of people on the kind of stuff I was trying to tell them. And the way I approached it was sort of like, well, I know some circle makers and they'll let you come out if you're interested and this sort of thing, you know, and they're not actually bad guys because there's this demonization that has been going on, a big attempt to demonize and blacken the names of me and the other circle makers, and it often takes the form of saying that we've done horrible things that we haven't actually done. But it's kind of like, you know, you get a catalogue of these, you know, stories which are made up about you to kind of make people dislike you, distrust you, and not want to speak to you. And I think that the circles researchers, the ayatollahs of crop circle research, they want to kind of put people off finding out the truth. So this is the way they go about it, is to kind of, you know, try and blacken your name. But anyway, I'd been trying quite hard to speak to many people. Eventually, one set of people I'd convinced and taken them out on a couple of occasions to watch circles being made. And one of their friends was a so-called professor, Professor Michael Glickman. Now, he was a circles researcher, and he used to say that people couldn't make these things. It's impossible, you know, and he would give all sorts of reasons why, and to do with geometry and angles, but a lot of it was kind of like, just take my word for it. I'm a professor. I know more than you, sort of stuff. And I took a slight exception to this because I wasn't sure how he could make these statements that people couldn't make this stuff. So I sort of looked into what he was saying couldn't be done and decided that I would specifically create a crop circle with things he said could not be done in a crop circle. And I would do it, you know, just for him, but I would still do it secretly, but I would give the information about what we were doing to a third party so that when the circle appeared, they would know that, yes, we did it because we told you it was going to appear and now it's appeared. And that the third party could kind of, you know, help as a sort of go-between to kind of maybe help this Professor Glickman guy understand. And it kind of backfired because the person I gave the information to was none other than Whitley Strieber, the author in the United States. And he used to have Professor Glickman on his show. So I said, well, look, you know, would you like to find out whether Professor Glickman can tell the difference between a real and a man-made circle, so to speak, then, yeah? And he said, yeah, sure, send us the details across. I did. And then Whitley Stryber, before the circle had appeared, had already given the information to Michael Glickman. And when the circle appeared, Michael Glickman went to the police and reported it. And I had 15, 16 police officers turn up to the house and turn the house upside down and take my computers and all the wonderful things that the police do when they come to see you.
So you weren't actually you weren't actually caught in the act of making the circle by
no.
the farmer saying,
No.
"You get off my land." This was afterwards. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I sort of answered the door in the morning, and there were all these police like standing in like rows outside my front door, and they said, "You Matthew Williams?" I'm like, "Yes," and they said, "We've got information that you made a crop circle at location, and is that correct now?" And I sort of thought about it for a few seconds, and I thought, and I was not a happy Teddy, I can tell you, and I just thought, F it, F it. I'm not going to let these people like push me around like this. And sort of, I've had them bullshitting and lying for so long. It's like, well, I'm going to own this. And I said, yep, that was me. I did that. And I felt quite strongly that because I'd obviously been betrayed, it was making me a little bit sort of, like I'm going to just admit to this and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to show these guys that Michael Glickman doesn't know what he's talking about, because that's the circle he would have said couldn't have been done. Of course, he then turned around for that particular circle and said, "Oh yes, that looks like a man-made one. Oh no, that's a you see." So this is how they kind of skirt around. If they find out a circle is man-made, then they look down on it. But if there's no information on a crop circle and its origin, then they praise it up and kind of it becomes almost like, is the term canonized? When they sort of make the circle gets turned into a saint, it achieves this sort of high religious status. But anyway, that was what happened, and I got arrested, taken away, lots of stuff seized, my stomping boards, as we call them, the stomper boards, tape measures, planks of wood with rope on the edges of them, surveyor's tape measures, and all the designs, which included loads of circles, but they only prosecuted me for the one that I'd admitted to. They never asked me about the others. And I think that was kind of because they were just interested in focusing on, we've got you, this is the evidence, you've admitted to it, let's process you. And they didn't really want to sort of like delve into, was I the guy that did this one and this one and this one? But anyway, I got my drawings back in the end, so that's fine. But I ended up in court 2 days later, because I think it was a Friday I was arrested, and I think it was like Monday morning I was in court, and there was a short amount of time anyway, and the magistrates were quite amused, it seemed, by me being there. Yeah, they were quite amused, and kind of like, oh, we don't get many of these, like you're the first sort of thing. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there was an interesting thing happened, because the farmer was there in court, and he was trying to claim that there was £400 worth of crop had been damaged. And he was claiming some figure like around £400, I think it was. And I thought, well, I thought about this before I went to court, and I thought, I bet you, just like all these other crop circles that appear, the farmer is going to claim thousands and thousands of pounds worth of damage. And I thought, he's going to do that when we go to court. So I actually went out, did my research, and found the value of crop per weight and how much crop would have been in the area of the circle, because I had the dimensions of the circle as well, so I could work out the area size, meter squared, and how much meter squared relates to weight of crop, and how much you'd sell that crop for. And it came out to £20.
Yeah.
And he was claiming £400. So I put my evidence forward when he was saying he wanted £400, and I put my evidence forward, and the magistrate said to him, can you quantify why it's £400? And he said, no. And they said, well, I award you nothing. So it was kind of like, whoa, this is interesting. It's like I'm the bad guy because I've committed a criminal act, but the farmer's also being told off for trying to blag loads of money that, it's kind of trying to blag it. So,
Well, it's fraud,
yeah,
isn't it?
it's a bit naughty. Yeah,
Fraud.
it's a bit naughty, especially in a court. But yeah,
I'd like to have been on the jury that day.
well, it was a magistrate's court, so there was no jury. Yeah, it was three magistrates, so they're just local business people, aren't they? You sometimes get a judge, which is one person, but he's trained in the law, and these were three local business people. And I think, I mean, there were smiles, coming from them, and I just got the impression that they thought that it was good for local. I think they said it's like this is good for local tourism. And one of them, I believe, actually said something along the lines of, "Oh, why is he here? Why is he here?" Like as if I shouldn't have really been there. Like I'm doing a lot of good for the local tourist trade. Like probably millions of pounds worth of tourism coming in because of it. So yeah. But anyway, they were very lenient with me. They gave me £125 fine, and that was it. So I think they were shining down on me. I got a criminal record for it, but they were on my side. Could have been worse. Yeah.
So if you get caught making a circle again, what's going to happen? They're going to bang you up.
Well, yeah, I would imagine doing it now. I have made crop circles after that, but I'm not going to admit to them anymore.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, the farmer's paid and it says a demonstration, which I have done. So, you've got me up to that point, up to 2000, was a secret circle maker, having all these weird experiences, which I'll go into in a minute. And then after 2000, I didn't really want to be exposed like that, but because it happened, it allowed me to talk openly about what we were doing and try and explain to people like Jon and various other groups, when I came down to see them, why we were doing it, and were we the bad guys? Am I the Darth Vader that I have been portrayed as, or am I just a normal person who just likes seeing the magic of crop circles, spread out there? So yeah, that's kind of like a little kind of potted history. And now today, I've given up the crop circles, as of a number of other circle makers, and there's not so many
shit anymore. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's the habit. Yeah.
I found other things now.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the crop circles, and the magic and weirdness I've had there is amazing. But I suffer from hay fever. It was a real labor of love, because I used to come out of those fields sometimes, and it looks like I'd been punched in the face. So yeah, it was quite hard sometimes. I mean, I had to actually quit making some circles and leave people to finish them because I was suffering so badly. And I had to take extremely strong antihistamines and things that you're not supposed to take as well, which work as antihistamines. So all that to make the crop circles. And I just decided that after a period of time that I had enough. I wished it well. I hoped it carried on. But yeah, I kind of like hung up my stomper board and went to different pastures, and that is now my YouTube channel called The Secret Vault, which is, as you can read down here, The Secret Vault, aka Matthew Williams. So that's what a lot of people know me as now. And it's surprising, even though I had a crop circle channel on YouTube and I used to drone fly the circles, I got an aircraft so I could fly people over the circles. So I've got a pilot's license to do that. And yeah, never really had that many people subscribing to my channel and not taking much of an interest. And I was doing the talks and putting them up there on the channel, but it never really, people don't want it. The reality is people don't want to hear about it being man-made. They want to believe it's aliens and they want to believe it's paranormal spirits. And to a degree it is. It is something weird.
Well, they want to believe that when the flying saucer lands on the 3 feet of the flying saucer, that's what they want, isn't it? That's the money shot.
Yeah. Or they believe that it's spiritual, and I think it may well be, because I mean, when we've been sending messages up to the universe and we get response, in various ways, that to me says there is something there.
There have
But,
been reports as well of concrete circles where wet concrete has been laid and then a circle appears from somewhere. So again, that could be,
there's ice
along.
circles, tree circles, which are,
Yeah.
snapped trees and things like that. So, I mean, the ice circles, I think, is explained. Tree circles, maybe not so much so. There's the original phenomena, which goes back to 1500s, and I think that if you look at even that, there's a kind of like a little clue there that it could have been people doing it or a person doing it, because the mowing devil, as
Exactly.
it was
I'm
called,
actually looking at it's strange, Matt, because as you said, the mowing devil. I was
yes,
actually.
of Hertfordshire.
We've got to connect. There's something in the Welsh connection, isn't there? Because as you mentioned that, I was looking at the mowing devil, and we can look at the people at home there. Yeah, pretty
If
good.
you actually read the story, because I mean, a lot of people remember the graphic and they think mowing devil, but the story it gives it away. I think is that there was a farmer was approached by some traveling gentleman who said, "I will cut your field for you. That's what I do. I will scythe your field or whatever it takes." And the farmer said, "No, I don't. I don't need anyone to do it." So the traveling fellow cursed the farmer in some way and said, like, "I curse you, bad luck will happen to you because you've not used me." And then either the day or a couple of days later, this crop circle appears, which is cut into the field. And the farmer then thought, "Oh my God, that must be the work of the devil." So went to see the priest, and then it was called the mowing devil. Now, I'm seeing a connection here. Somebody said that they wanted to be employed. You didn't employ them. They went in your field, created a crop circle, and it got passed off as being the work of the devil.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's one explanation. There's that's like a UFO type impression there, landing in the crop circle, creating the circle there. So it's pretty good. And and of course I've got the famous image of the famous circle there. That was from 1990. But yeah, they do go they do go pre 1990, don't they? They do go.
Oh yes.
Circles and circles in general have a history prior to when you
If
started.
anyone's If anyone's interested, I put together a documentary with a load of circle makers to actually see if I could dig out their paranormal experiences from them and say, well, look, why do you do this stuff? Are you doing it just for a bit of fun? Is it art? Or do you believe in weird experiences? And have you had any? So I collected all these stories together and I put them in a documentary called Circle Makers. It's just one word, Circle Makers. It's on YouTube. It's about 3 hours long. And the circle makers do have weird experiences whilst making them, and also they acknowledge the strange effects it has on others that visit later. So
what kind of thing?
Right, the paranormal stuff that I've experienced. There was one night that myself and another, went to a field near a place called Lockridge. And it's not far from Alton Barnes, Honey Street area. Lockridge has got a forest behind it, and it's a sort of slightly inclined hill. And we were going to go and make the circle there, but when we arrived, we saw torches at the top of the field. So somebody was in that field, and we didn't know who it was. So we decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to use that field, obviously, because there was somebody there. But I said, well, but if before we actually say no, let's find out who they are and what they're doing, because I'll walk through the field and I'll just bump into them like as if I'm some sort of nighttime walker and say like, oh, hello, what's going on, and then see what the score is, and then we'll see where we go from there, sort of thing. And I went up there and I could see from the top of the field, I could see exactly where we'd be working, and it was quite obvious. It would be quite clear that we would be making a crop circle in front of these people, but they were actually astronomers, and they had a telescope set up at the top of the field, and they were more interested in the sky than anything else. So I went down, relayed the fact that it was a bunch of astronomers, and said, well, they can definitely see where we'd be working. There's no way we can make it. We have to find somewhere else to do this, And like my mate was kind of, yeah, I agree, yeah. And I said, I don't know, it's weird, because I get this like weird feeling like that we should do it, even though that doesn't make any sense logically. And he said, it's funny you should say that, because I kind of feel we should do it as well. I said, yeah, but this is like lunacy. This is insanity, because those guys can definitely see us. He says, yeah, I know, but I kind of feel like we should. And I'm like, yeah, I do too. And it's weird. It's like this kind of wave came over us that we should do that. So anyway, we made this circle and we could see them the whole night long. And we finished up and we got out there and we're like, how the hell did they not see us? They must be blind, anyway. So we went away and we would always look for the stories of what people had experienced in and around when a circle had appeared. And this story started coming out that these people had been there all night long with their astronomy equipment, and they'd looked down into the field, and the field had been covered by a fog layer and they couldn't see in. But where they were, they could see the sky, so they were fine, but they couldn't see. And in the morning, just before daylight, the fog lifted and there was a crop circle there. And it's like, well, that's weird, because we were there, obviously, we'd done the whole thing, and how the hell has it come across like there's this fog bank there? And how can we see them, but they can't see us? It's almost like a one-way mirror sort of thing, effect of something was there, maybe hiding us from view. And that was a weird one. And it's not the only time it's happened. We had a number of other experiences where we've managed to get away with things right underneath people's noses. Even Colin Andrews back in the old days when they were doing a thing called Operation Blackbird. I mean, they had the army with them on the hill with night vision equipment, and a team were able to come in and create a crop circle underneath them, and they didn't see a thing. Nobody saw a thing. And it's almost like somebody's watching out for you, somebody's protecting you. There's some sort of force is allowing that to happen right under people's noses, so that it makes it more freaky, makes it more real. That nobody could have done that, because we were here watching that field with the night vision equipment, and there's no way it could have been people. But it was.
I first got interested in crop circles with the Oliver's Castle video in 96 or 97.
Yeah, I know quite a bit about that.
I don't think I've ever asked you. So please, what happened? And because I was shown it by a guy called Pete Glastonbury, who I don't know if you know.
I know Pete Glastonbury well, actually. Yeah,
I haven't seen Pete in years.
I haven't seen him for a couple of years now, yes, but I knew him well.
We used to be friendly in 97, 98, 99. Then he moved away and I haven't seen him since. So.
Yes, he's living in Devizes at the moment. So, yeah, he's just looking after his family and that sort of stuff. He'd been toying with the idea of writing a book, and I was helping him with drone footage for a project that didn't ever come to fruition. It may well do one day, but I mean, I've photographed hundreds of sacred sites, around the country with a drone for a project where these were all going to be put together in a massive sort of special presentation about the sacred sites. But yeah, so that's how I know Pete. But anyway, back to the point. You want to know whether or not it was real?
The story of the Oliver's Castle video.
Okay. What actually happened was I was there when the gentleman called Jon Wabe came into the pub and was approaching people. I was actually there, and there was another guy called Lee Winterson who was there at the same time, and a copy of this tape was given out, and it was shown on the television screen in the Barge Inn pub. So then people went mental over it, and I actually didn't see it when it was first shown. I saw it when it was shown subsequently. So in the later part of the day, I got to see it, and I didn't get to meet Jon Wabe himself, but Lee Winterson was there. Now, Lee and I had made crop circles together, so we parted on bad terms because he stole a load of my equipment, which I had to go to court and get it back off him.
Oh dear.
So yes, so Lee was kind of trying to avoid me when he was showing this footage, because I was a UFO researcher. I had a background, as I said, when I was that UFO sighting in video editing, so I knew quite a lot about the technology of video and what things you can do and how they look, and this sort of stuff. And when I saw it on day one, I said, well, that's been created on a computer. And people say, well, how can you say that? And I said, well, because look at the footage beforehand. It's got interlace lines in it. And I don't know if you know anything about the way TV works, but you have the odd and even lines of the interlace field. So every frame of video, it has all the data of the image, but slightly offset is the A field and the B field, which is how you make a 25 frames a second piece of video look like 50 frames, because there's double the information encoded in there. And if you pause a video, certainly in the old days, if you pause a video, you see these jagged lines. So you'd see them like coming out of people's faces, out of lampposts and things like that.
Yeah.
So jagged lines were proof that there was interlace there. Now, when you pick up a video camera, they shoot 50 frames a second. It's 25 with interlace. That's how it's stored on the tape. But when you play it back, it's 50, and you see the interlace lines. Now, this guy in the morning had gone up onto Oliver's Castle. This was the story. Picked up his camera and filmed around, and then cut to he's filming this crop circle appear out of nowhere, with this balls of light going around it, and what I could see was that in the movement of his camera, where the shake had been applied later on, it was actually a static image, and then the shake had been applied as a digital effect. But what I wasn't seeing the interlace lines, which meant that it had been created at 25 frames a second. It hadn't been created at the 50 with the interlace. So how did a man's camcorder that only shoots in 50 with interlace suddenly cut to something that's 25 without? And then cut back at the end to more camera shots of Happy Days, wandering around. How would you have that cut? That wouldn't possibly exist. So I knew straight away that there was CGI had been employed, and it had to be somebody who's very well versed in it, because it was quite technical. You'd have to have quite good video editing equipment. Well, it turns out that this Jon Wabe didn't want to be contacted. He was kind of like, oh, here's the tape, and I'm going to use Lee Winterson and somebody else to try and sell this footage to the crop circle world. He wanted to make money out of it, which is a big red flag. It's like dollar signs. And Lee Winterson, who had also had problems with, and I'd like, oh yeah, here we go, like Lee Winterson, right? Okay, yeah. So he's the guy who just happens to turn up at the pub when this guy turns up. Lee lives in Bristol. Jon Wabe comes from Bristol, apparently. And it turned out, in the end, we found out that there had been a collusion between Mr. Winterson and Mr. Wabe to create this footage. Jon Wabe, he called himself Jon Wabe, and it might have been John Wade was his real name. So there was a slight change in the name. And he worked for HTV in Bristol. So he worked for a television company as none other than a graphic artist working with digital graphics.
Oh dear.
And then, because this was found out, a team, including Peter Sorensen, you may be familiar with, actually went to HTV and caught Jon Wabe coming out of the office. And it was like magic timing, because they had his picture, and they caught him coming out of the door and managed to sort of like doorstep him and like, oh, John, you're the guy with the footage, why didn't you admit that you made it? You work for HTV. You never told anybody that. And he ran away. And then he must have thought about it and thought, oh God, they've got me. So he came back and he said, yeah, okay, yeah, I did do it. It's all on camera, by the way. Yes, I did do it. And they said, well, can you show us how you did it? And he said, yeah, okay. So he got them into HTV, took them to his workstation, and actually brought up the footage. He said, well, look, this is how you do it. And he actually showed all of the sequence he'd used to make it appear and disappear, and then put the balls of light in and how he'd shaken it around. But it was all 25 frames a second. So, yeah, I spotted it on day one. I told everybody, don't be fooled. This is not the real deal. But everybody wanted to believe it. They wouldn't have it any other way. And it swept people along. So that's the story behind that piece of footage. Sorry if it disappoints.
Oh no,
But I like the truth.
I've known it was a fake for 30 years. I just didn't know who, how, and when. Now I do, which is nice.
But there we are. We put that one to bed for you then, because I mean, we all like to find out in the end, don't we? So we've got a few people.
People coming on.
You've got loads of people in from my channel. Let's have a look. Yeah.
We've got Dazzy, Swedish Chef, Tracy, Mick, Jason.
We got 32 on YouTube, which is unusual.
And Doc Holiday and someone called John Bengal.
Doc Holiday sounds familiar. Do I think of Ted Holiday?
That reminds me, actually.
Ted Holiday. Doc Holiday was a gunman out in the Old West, as far as I remember.
I'm so bad. I did put an advert telling people I was going to be on here, and I said, click the link in the thing below. And well, I didn't put the link, did I? So I'm going to put that in there now. Save it. There we are. But I did say the spooky show with Jon and Ve. I did say that, so they can search for it, but I forgot the link. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the only show you can watch where the presenter calls the special guest a silly sod, which doesn't happen very often.
I'll take it.
Have you heard stories about shadowy figures seen on the outsides of crop circles, watching people make them?
Yeah. And watching us from inside, I've actually had one stand next to me and then not be there. It's happened to other people. It's happened to quite a few people who've been making the crop circles. I've seen these figures, and then I've said, well, I've looked at the figure and sort of like can't make anything out because it's dark, so you don't tend to see detail at night, but you can see there's somebody there. And then I'm kind of like looking around, and then I'm counting up how many people are there. And I'm like, oh, well, I said, look, who's there? And it's like, and I look back, and then the person's gone. So I'm kind of like trying to make up where everyone is, and then that person had disappeared. That's happened to a number of people. Also, there was a gentleman from Bristol who took a series of photos, and in my personal opinion, I don't think he was sophisticated enough to kind of know how to fake something like this. And he took a series of photos of a crop circle, and there was these black figures were there. Yet, if you looked at the photo close up, you could see other people standing in the circle who had clothing on that would be considered dark or black. And yet the black figures were almost like as if light had been removed from the negative. So it was almost like blocking completely, the light out. So it was almost like a removal of light. And that was interesting to see those photos. So that was that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that's been going on, including seeing strange alien-type blonde figures.
And you have had these. You have experienced the figures as well, Matt.
At night, yes, yeah.
What do you think they could be?
I don't know. It could be spirits. It could be extraterrestrials. It could. I mean, you could call them the Men in Black because they're black, but
and what are they, kind of humanoid figures, but just completely sort of devoid of light? Is that what you're seeing?
The funny thing is, nobody that's ever seen it has ever told me they felt anything negative from it. Not that they were feeling like loving feelings coming from it, but they didn't feel anything negative. It was just like an odd occurrence. Like there's somebody there. You look back, they're not there, and it's kind of like weird stuff like that. And but not felt anything unusually negative about it. But there have been events which have felt wrong, felt weird, and it
kind of an evil energy you felt.
One particular night, I wanted to create a crop circle directly below where Japanese TV and were set up on the hill. I was actually helping them to, in case any UFOs or anything was seen over the area. but nothing was really happening. And I thought, well, maybe if we make a crop circle where we know they're going to be pointing the cameras, then there's always a chance that maybe they'll capture some balls of light or something will be there. You know, that was the hope anyway. So I decided to go and do it in a specific field, went there with a few friends. And when we got there and got into the edge of the field, I was sort of sensing in my gut like something's not right here. It was just a weird feeling like we shouldn't be doing this. This feels wrong. And I'm like, oh, just snap out of it, Matt. Because I mean, I've made so many circles and I'm not easily phased by pretty much anything. You know, there could be people or lights or anything really, and it doesn't phase me. But I was getting this kind of like weird feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I was like, oh, just put that behind you. And I was like, no, come on, stick to what you said you're going to do. This is what I'm mentally saying to myself, I'm going to stick to what you're going to do and let's go and do this thing. So we sort of walk into the field and these are experienced circle makers. And I say, right, take the tape out to like, 30 foot and we'll do a circle. And he's like, 30? What, like feet or meters? I'm like, well, feet. And he's like, so what do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, I'll stand here, or you can stand here if you want, and I'll take it out to 30 or thing. And he's like, and I'm like, 30 feet. We're doing a small line of 30 feet. And I was like, people were acting like as if they were dumbfounded by almost everything I was trying to tell them to do. And I was like, guys, hang on, pull it together. Like, we've done this so many times now. And it wasn't as if there was any drugs or alcohol involved. We were all kind of corpus mentis to do this. But it just seemed like people couldn't get it together. And in the end, I just said, look, you stand there, hold this, I'll go out here and I'll walk the circle, okay? So just turn around. It got to that point where it was literally like plant the guy there, like a dummy, and so he knew what he should be doing. Anyway, so started to do the inscription, and as the first few marks were being put in, just literally the first little part of the line, lights came on the edge of the field. I was like, oh shit, like we've been spotted. And it was like 3 corners of the field, like ding, 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 lights came on. It was like, oh no. So instinctively we all ducked down, because when you're below the level of the crop, it makes it very hard to see. And so we ducked down. Now we always have an escape plan, and it would just happen that one corner of the field that we needed to get out to be where we were going to be going back and walking up the road was the one corner of the field where there weren't lights. So the 3 corners had them and one corner didn't. So I think one of us must have shouted like, let's go, so we all upped and started running with all our tools towards the corner of the field. And I can remember looking back on many occasions, and what we were dealing with were golden balls of light. And they weren't actually like torchlights, although when you initially saw them, you kind of, your eyes have adjusted to the dark and it's quite bright, but they were actually golden balls of light, and other people confirmed they were golden. And as we were leaving the field, they were maneuvering in to the position that we were just at. So they were all moving in, but they were moving in smoothly, not like somebody with a torchlight running or walking. There was no sort of motion or the light being occluded by a person, because they were in the wrong or right position. No, it's just free floating balls of light that moved into the position that we'd just been working. And we got out of there. We left one of our friends with the boards and all the equipment. And we said, look, we're going to walk back, get the car. And when we come down the road, we'll flash the lights and he can just jump out. We thought, no problem, because he's hidden in the bush. Nobody's going to see him. He's never going to get sort of like found. He's piece of cake. He doesn't have to walk back to the car. It's an easy number, So anyway, we got the car, we drove down the hill and we started flashing the lights. But who was in the middle of the road, halfway along the road, walking with all the boards and equipment in his hand down the middle of the road, was our friend. And I was like, hello, come and get in, it's us. And he's like, yeah, get me out of here. And I'm like, what? He's like, he says, just to get me out of here. And I was like, what? And he's just like, just drive. And I'm like, I said, you do realize if we'd been a police car, you'd be you know,
In deep
done
shit.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be in shit, like. And he said, "Oh, I don't care." I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "No, there was screaming sounds and screaming and wailing." I'm like, you what? I said, "It was just probably a fox." He said, "No, no, 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 no." He said, "It was really loud and it was like, it was screaming, wailing women." And I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "If it had been a police car," he said, "I'd have just got in. I'd have gone, take me away." You know, I was ready. I was ready to go. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So that was another thing.
Mm.
But what had actually happened there was, I'd got this feeling that we shouldn't be doing something, and I'd gone against it. And that's what had happened. Whereas other times where I felt, you should be doing this, you can do this. We've literally been able to put crop circles in underneath where people are watching on numerous occasions. And so
Mm.
just to kind of give you the two sides of,
And also,
the
interestingly,
feelings.
Matt, Matt, when you started telling us that anecdote, you froze for a bit,
Yeah.
Did
as
I?
if you shouldn't be telling us that. So yeah,
Yeah.
there was the bit.
Mm.
And
The other
that's
three of us
happened.
didn't. Yeah.
That is the third
Mm.
time today that's happened, because regular viewers will remember that
Mm.
last week I was interviewing a lady called Abby Dent from Devon Ghosts.
Mm.
And I was talking to her this afternoon. I was interviewing her about her encounters with shadow people
Uh-huh.
for a book I'm writing. And she was telling me about people she knew who'd been making crop circles and seen these shadow people in the circles with them. And she kept on flickering on and off. The internet it threw her out at one point. It went completely shit.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, I've got Matthew on the show tonight. I'm going to ask him. And as soon as you're in the middle of telling your story, you froze. And I thought you were going,
Well,
and you froze. And on the screen, because I can see a screen which the U43 can't, which has got individually, so I can take you in or take you out of the
uh, when I saw
yeah.
Matt freeze, it was at the beginning of that story there, with
Yeah,
a bit the negative energy, as if to say,
it
"Don't
was
tell this tale,
Don't. I've
otherwise we'll
told it.
freeze you."
I've told it
vanished.
many times, but
Yeah,
yes.
that's the first time you've frozen. But anyway,
Matt
Yeah.
either that
vanished
or
off
you need to
my
restart your
screen.
router.
Yeah.
I've only got one more thing to add to this,
Hmm.
and we're going to have to knock it on the head because it's been an hour and a half. How the hell did
Well,
that happen?
it has been.
I've
It's
only
coming
just
to an
got
end.
started, John.
I know.
I know,
And
Matt.
I think we
Will
all
you
know.
come
I'm,
back?
And
I'm,
Matt,
Will you,
we're trying to get this. Well, actually, you'll have to definitely come back on, isn't it? If you want
yeah,
okay.
to.
will you come
Yeah,
back on, Matt, and tell us the
definitely.
rest of your stories?
We got so
Well,
much more.
let me just say that
Oh,
there
go
have
on.
been coincidences where people have been, I'll keep it really short, coincidences where people have been meditating on the design of a crop circle. And me and other people have got the idea to get up and go and do that crop circle that night. And those people have been blown away because they didn't tell anybody. They were meditating on this stuff, and I've gone out and done it. We've had time shifts where I was running out of time and I asked the universe help us, and clocks went back. If you can believe that. There was another experience where I was getting rained on, and I just had enough. I was just like, a lot of people think we're all sort of jolly, like circle makers. A lot of it is kind of like, you do this, it's in the dark, it's raining, it's cold, you've got allergies, and it's like a mission. It's like a mission. Anyway, I just said, oh God, if you could just stop the rain, please, like that. And then the rain kind of stopped. It turned to a mist, and a hole opened up in the cloud, and the clouds were passing it, and the hole was staying there. And I called people over and I said, what's that? And I said, look, the clouds are passing it. I said, it's not raining. And then I said, come here, come to the edge of the circle, put your hand out. It's raining. Pull your hand in. It's not raining.
That's
And then
wonderful.
it's like, I said, right, let's Just give us a hug. Yeah, we're doing this for the right reasons. This is what it's about. So anyway, I'll leave you with that.
So
We got many more stories.
again,
yeah.
can I ask something? Because I've been wondering, when you've been doing these circles, have you ever experienced static electricity in the air where your hair starts standing on end?
Well, Matt hasn't, has he?
Not particularly, no. Not at night. I think there have been reports of that sort of thing happening afterwards in the circles, but not
Yeah.
when we've been making them. No,
Okay.
not that particular effect. What we do have, though, which is unusual, is flashes that go across the sky, and you seem to sort of light everything up, but they're very, very very fast. Not like lightning, where you'd sort of get a couple of flashes and they would be a little bit longer. These things are very fast pulses of just flashes.
Maybe
And
a tenth of a second, maybe a tenth of a second.
And we took a scientist who we told this to, and he said, well, I'm an astronomer and I've been out, for every night of the year, and I've never seen anything like this. So we took him out, made a crop circle with him, and he saw the flashes. And he said, well, I've never seen this before. And it's like, okay.
It's funny you say that, because I've experienced the same sort of flashes when examining these things in the dark with other people.
Right.
And the lady I was speaking to earlier about her shadow people, a lot of which happened in Wales.
Right, yeah.
Not in Wales, in Wiltshire, sorry. A lot of which happened in Wiltshire. She said about these flashes going across the sky as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. The amber gambler is a orange light that is often seen coming over and down behind the hills and then pop back out again, sort of like weird light. Yeah, people see the balls of light. That's a common one. Yeah. And people see UFOs. And I've seen UFOs in the area as well. And I've seen other weird things as well, which comes into the kind of like very woo-woo. I saw some Indian figures dancing around a man who was on top of a hill of Adam's grave. And as I watched, they shrunk in height. And I thought, oh, I've got to get up there now. So I got out of the car and I ran, which I'm not like, I hate exercise. And I ran to the top of the hill because I wanted to get up there. And there was nobody there. The original guy wasn't there. These people who were dancing around him weren't there. And I was on top of the hill with the moonlight. So as I said, moonlight, you could see everything. And there was nobody coming or going, and it was perfectly clear. I could hear sheep on distant hills quite clearly and couldn't hear any voices, and I was on my own. And I thought, bloody hell, like, why did I see that then? And I kind of thought to myself, yeah, but look how lovely it is up here tonight in the moon. I think something was going, come look. And they had to attract me somehow.
Maybe it was Jim Morrison with the Indian figures dancing around him.
Well, I don't know that story, but I'll look it up now you mentioned it.
He had an Indian spirit guide.
Yeah. They were dancing around this guy who just seemed like he was not even taking any notice of them. He was looking around. And I had night vision and binoculars, and I was thinking, what the hell's going on up there? And then they shrunk down in size to like be around his waist. I thought, this is weird, And he was still kind of like acting like as if he couldn't see them. And I thought, well, maybe he can't see them. I can, but maybe this guy can't. So I just thought, well, anyway, I'm going to go up there and find out what's going on. So there I am on my own, running up the hill to face God knows what, but doing it quite excitedly, and not with any fear, just hoping I would see something, and I think that's the way I kind of do a lot of things, running into them with no fear. But, yeah.
When you say Indian, do you mean Indian or Red Indian?
Well, I couldn't say that they were dressed like Indians, but they were doing this kind of shuffle like leaning forwards and sort of doing this sort of thing with knees bent, body tilted forward, and doing this around him. It's like as if they were, 6 or 7 of them going around this guy, and he was just dressed normally. As far as I could see, but I thought I saw him turn on a torch, which is what originally kind of let me know he was there, because I saw a light. So then I thought, oh, who's up there then? And I thought, oh, is he trying to signal somebody in the field as making a crop circle? And then as I kept looking at this bloke, eventually, bang, there's all these people dancing around him. I was like, where the hell did they come from? What the hell? Like, what's going on here? So I kept watching and then looking at the field and seeing if there was anyone in the field. And I looked back and then I saw, actually, you say about static, on the night vision, there was more speckling than usual around these figures. It was speckles, lots of speckles. And then they seemed to shrink down in height, over a period of a minute or two. And I just went, right, sod this, slammed the car door, locked it, and I was like running, up the hill. And I literally do think that something wanted me to come up there to see how magical that landscape can look like at night in the moon. Because I'm sure, like, people who've been living there for the last 20,000 years, apparently, in that area, it's a magical place, and when viewed at those times,
It does have its own distinctive energy. I remember, I was born at Stonehenge in an army ambulance right next to Heelstone.
Right.
And I lived in Wiltshire, up at Perham Down on an army gunner's armoury place for some time as a child. And later in my life, when I was a rock musician, I was touring for years and years and years. Whenever we were driving in Wiltshire and we got within 5 miles of Stonehenge, I would always feel that we were close to Stonehenge, and I'd wake up. So I'd spend a lot of time, because John will tell you, when I'm on tour, I get what we call road psychosis. It only takes me 48 hours, and I've forgotten, because I'm dyspraxic anyway. It takes me about 48 hours, and then I've forgotten what day of the week it is. I've forgotten probably what month it is within a week.
Our whole life.
I've forgotten what month it is, what country we're in, what county we're in. I have no idea about anything except my interpersonal relationships with people in the band. I don't even know what day of the week it is. But at those times, we could be in the middle of Scotland. I wouldn't know. But as soon as we get within 5 miles of Stonehenge, I would get this feeling and I would wake up. So it's got its own energy.
I and a number of others have often commented that it seems like when you leave the Wiltshire bubble, which is sort of beyond Avebury and out towards Swindon, when you leave that sort of bubble, that time seems different. It seems like time runs much slower outside, and it seems to run quickly inside. That's just a comment that a number of people I know have kind of said, that it seems like time feels different when you're outside the bubble.
I mean, the number of times that I went to the Stonehenge Festival, and it could be because of the drugs, I don't know. But
that'll do it.
It was like it's like the amount of time that we were there didn't seem like as long as we were actually there. Like I'd be there, like I'd help Uncle Nick from Hawkwood. He used to provide that pyramid stage for free for the Stonehenge Festival. And from when I was about 14, I would go every year and I would help with the crew setting it up. So I'd be there about a week, 2 weeks, but it would only seem like it was 3 or 4 days. And at that age, 14, I wasn't commonly taking drugs. So, I don't know. It did. It always did seem, it always did seem like time was passing quite quickly whenever we were there, yeah.
Oh,
It always did seem like time was passing quite quickly whenever we were there, yeah. It always did seem like time was passing quite quickly whenever we were there, yeah. It always did seem like time was passing quite quickly whenever we were there, yeah.
Yeah. Are you talking about Nick Turner, perhaps?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, Nick Turner. Yes, I've met many of the members of Hawkwind, and I've met him at that event, that thing I was talking about. I went to in Birmingham. He used to go there regularly, but recently passed away, wasn't it? Yes,
Yeah,
sadly.
very sad.
Yeah,
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 Yeah, I
yeah.
was fond of Nick as well.
yeah.
It's funny that 3 out of the 4 of us knew Nick Turner totally separately of each other.
Mm. I tell you, one of the things I've always found most lovable and fantastic about Nick was that since at least the 1970s, he's always been teaching some children somewhere how to play the flute or sax or some wind instrument. And 10, 15 years ago, I got back in touch with him again, having not been in touch with him for ages, because I lived in Europe for donkey's years, and John got me to get in touch with people I knew through Facebook. And he was still at it. He still had, because it was so easy to give people lessons over the internet. Once you had the advent of live streaming internet stuff, he was doing it again, and there were at least 5 children I knew of that he was regularly giving lessons to over the internet.
Wow.
There were a couple in America. I think there was one in Japan. There was another one in Germany, and so there are children all over the world, and adults now as well, that are accomplished musicians only because this one man, Nicky Turner, actually made contact with him, and he encouraged them and he taught them how to play those instruments. Yeah.
And guys, we really must knock off now because somebody else is coming on afterwards.
What is?
We've got another show coming on after this, so we've got to.
You got to prepare.
But the one thing I do want to say, just going back to the story of Matthew's story about the Japanese TV crew, after they had done that film, they came down to Exeter and they did some filming with me and Richard because they wanted us to see if we could attract one of the mystery cats that were being seen up on the Halden Hill. So Richard and I went to Cricket St Thomas Wildlife Park where they had leopards, and they had one of their female leopards was in season. And they let us go into the leopard cage once the leopards have been taken out of it and collect shit droppings from the female leopard that was in season. Hopefully, the smell of which we were hoping would attract any other big cats that were in the area. And we went up to Halden Hill, and the Japanese film crew were filming us. And I don't know any of you have ever seen leopard droppings, but they're oval shaped. And they're about this big, and they're oval shaped. And I went round a tree, putting them around a tree every few inches apart. And the Japanese presenter said, "So, Mr. Downs, why are you putting all these droppings in around the tree?" And I said, "Well, it's simple. I'm making a crap circle."
Yeah.
Which was very proud, and I do hope they kept that on the Japanese show. They probably didn't. Matthew, you've got to come on the show again soon and tell us some more.
Okay.
Because it's been great fun having you. Ian, thank you, dear boy, for thinking of Matthew in the first place. Why I didn't think of it, I'm kicking myself. I should have thought of it ages ago.
You have mentioned him and the idea of bringing him on a few times in the last few months. That's how I knew who he was earlier, if you remember, before we started.
Now, V and I are going to be back next week, hopefully. I'm still waiting for her to confirm whether our guest will be Brigitte Barclay,
Hooray!
UFO contactee, a charming and glamorous young lady who I have known again for about 30 years. I met an awful lot of the people I know. It happened as soon as my first wife left me. I met all this new bunch of people, and I'm still friends with an awful lot of these people now. And one of them is Brigitte, one of them is Matthew, and Brigitte will be here hopefully next week. And the week after that, we have none other than the famous and infamous and clever Sam Sheeran, the artist.
Oh, okay.
And the man who first popularized the Beast of Green Drive. But we will enough of that. We'll tell you all about that then. So,
tell them about Nettie's show as well.
Okay, good point. Me and V will be back next week. Ian, you're welcome to join us if you want. And then the week after that, we're doing, like I said, we've got Sam Sheeran. The week after that, I will say, is a complete secret because I haven't actually booked anyone yet. I don't know who we've got then. The week after that, we have the last Wednesday of the month show, which is our Halloween special, even though it's not on Halloween because it's on the Wednesday, and it features Roland Watson from Loch Ness.
Hurrah!
And fancy dress as well.
And it is our fancy dress. And all three of us have got fancy dress costumes. We're not telling anybody what they are. And of course, Dave Scott will be there, probably dressed as a Bigfoot.
Dressed as a Canadan.
That's what? You mean someone from Canada?
Yeah, I do indeed.
But 3 days after the last Wednesday of the month, no, 2 days after the last Wednesday of the month show, is Halloween. And regular people who watch this channel will know the lovely Nettie, Annette Locke. She is doing a Halloween special, which has got me and V in it. And I can't tell you anything more than that because I don't know. No. But there is a show with Nettie on Halloween, All Saints Eve. And it's called All Hallows Eve, All Saints Eve. And it's interesting, the church here in my village is the Church of All Hallows. So it's Saints' Day is the day after Halloween. And so, Matthew, come back again soon because we've got so much to ask you. And I want to hear about the urban exploration stuff.
Oh, that as well, yeah. We didn't even touch it. But
very soon. Come back very, very soon.
Okay, well, thanks for inviting us. Thanks for inviting us on. It's very kind, and
Matt.
hope some people open some minds.
I've loved you being on tonight, and I'm really looking forward to you coming back on again.
So,
thank you.
Until then, we'll be.
See you now.
Bye.
Time to go home. Time to go home from your simply spooky adrenaline ride. Time to go home. Time to go home. Even if you're terrified. Goodbye. Time to go home. Time to go home. Vivien and her weird friends are all going home. Time to go home. Time to go home. Vivien is waving goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.